Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. Yes, recently it was Big Finish Day, and there's a different podcast telling you all about that. However, at Big Finish Day, I finally got to meet in the flesh Andrew Smith, who's responsible for writing the very last story of this very last box set of Survivors. Yes, I know it'll probably continue in different forms, probably audiobooks or the equivalent of a companion chronicle, but Survivor Tales? Yeah, let's get back to that one. But this marks the final release of the, main Survivors range. Obviously, it's Big Finish, so never say never. These things could go on forever. But you know what? It's really brave of them to go, this is it, this is the end of the journey. Which is kind of survivory, if you think about it. Here's the synopsis for this box set. The world has ended. The death pandemic crossed continents, sparing only a fraction of the global population. The survivors are now picking up the pieces and rebuilding society to create a new future. But no cities, no laws, no technology. Everyone must start over. Only the worst of human nature has survived along with the best. Now, it's 4 stories, and everyone who's stuck with me all the way along knows how much I've loved this series. For me, it is by far the best thing ever to come out of Big Finish, and I'm looking at you, Atta Girl, as possibly a close second run. Yes, everyone loves things like Peter Noster or Jago and Lightfoot, and the main range of Doctor Who will go on forever, hopefully. But if you're looking for something that isn't Doctor Who-y, and you want something that is so definitively Big Finish, then this is where you come. Yeah, come for the Doctor Who, but stay for the Survivors. I've just loved this box set. And you know, weirdly, the thing at its core is that I've never, ever seen Survivors on DVD. I suppose in this world of depression and weird politics and all of that nonsense, there's only so much room in my soul for dystopian futures. And I know this is the future as seen from the perspective of the 1970s, but that's fine because society has crumbled. It doesn't really matter when it is. So you've got this storyline, this end of the world thing that's happened, and people are just getting on with their lives, and people are still killing each other and being appalling to each other. Yes, some people have still got vehicles. Some people have got trains, and other bits of technology do show their heads, but they're not being made anymore. The manufacturing has gone. The raw power's gone. Eventually we're going to end up with a feudal society, and that's what these people are after. They're after a return to just lords and warring worlds. If you wanted to create a story like this, I would suggest going away and reading John Christopher's The Prince in Waiting trilogy, which is kind of a kid's version of this, but it could never be made these days because it's got guns. It's a story that I think would be great on audio, and I'd love to adapt it, but that's for another story, for another time. I've loved Survivors. I've loved this whole journey through 9 series. There's been more Survivors on audio than there ever was on TV, but like I said, I've never seen the TV show. I suppose now that it's finished on audio, I can go back and experience it and just see what it was all like to watch it, because as far as I'm concerned, Survivors has been an audio journey. There isn't enough room in my soul for any of these others. I'm not watching The Handmaid's Tale. I've not seen Zombies Rise and Walking Dead and things like that. Yes, I did that whole Mockingjay series of films, but they came and they went and they were done. I can kind of handle one at a time, so perhaps after this I'll go away and do something else in the exciting world of, the world falling apart. Or perhaps I'll just live in the real world. So, let's look at these stories one at a time. Here's the synopsis for story number 1. 9.1, The Farm. by Jane Slavin. After a short, sharp coup, power has shifted and a new order asserts control over the country. Meg Pritchard believes she is the leader who can draw together the threads of civilization. With the men sent to war, Jenny must help the women of the farm see the truth behind their new society. Now, this takes place immediately, well, not even remotely immediately after the awful incidents of box set 8. All incidents in Survivors are awful. You just kind of get used to it and just get through one thing after another. If you look at the whole of what happens in a box set, you'd be like, oh, this is appalling. But if you're just experiencing one thing at a time, it's fine. Nothing is ever easy in Survivors. Yes, somebody's character is searching for their son and has been for the entire TV series, and now she's finally found him, and he is appalling. He is emotionally crippled and is just violent and nasty and a terrible person. And you're thinking all the way through, this is going to end badly. And you know what? It might, but I'm not going to give you any spoilers because it's taken 9 seasons of audio and, 4 on TV to get to this point. It's important that this storyline is ended. But of course, it's more important that we end up in a terrible place. Now, Jane's produced a great story for this first box set. And when you're listening to it, you know that it's female-centric. But as always, you just don't care because what you've actually got is a collection of incredibly good characters trapped in a small place. This is what TV does well. This is what Big Finish does brilliantly. And of course, Jane's produced a great piece of writing. You've got some fantastic characters, people who really deserve to breathe and expand, and if Survivors does ever come back in any form, these are the people that we want to spend time with. I'm missing Louise Jameson in these stories, but I always will. You've got what is basically a labour camp, producing stuff for the fighting men. And you know what? If it wasn't for Pritchard's worldview and the fact that she just wants to produce a next generation of fighters, then she'd be able to see beyond her own sexism and her own worldview and develop into something better and use the skills that are at hand rather than just seeing women as factories for producing, well, more soldiers. But that's just her failing. Robert's character in this whole box set, well, he comes to the fore again. But that's for more... how do I talk about these things without giving spoilers? I feel as though I've said too much already about this story. But you know what? It's all right because it just gets better. And you find out that some people who you may think have gone haven't quite gone just yet. Story number 2 is Hearts and Minds. Here's the synopsis for that. The Protectorate now holds resources once shared by the Federation. Its enemies are branded terrorists as they skirmish up and down the country. Craig wants to strike a decisive blow while Abby still hopes for reconciliation with her son. Ruth is caught between her friends. Can she stop them both from making terrible mistakes? Now, Hearts and Minds is really good because everyone's got that. Literally, it's a power struggle in Survivors. But of course, power comes from energy, and people, let's face it, in the 70s there were still mines in the UK. There is still coal down there. But of course, people are going to try and not use coal for environmental purposes. But if there's less people, then the damage caused is going to be less, and so on. Let's face it, the whole world's problems could be solved by the removal of one species. Sadly, that species is the human race, and we'd kindly miss ourselves. But you know, that's very self-centred. I'm not telling everyone to go away and kill themselves, because that sort of behaviour is frowned upon. But you know, the whole world would survive and get along a lot better without us. It really would. Sorry, these are the thoughts that pop into your head after you've listened to Survivors. The mine, the terrorism, the way that people are perceived, the people's motivations, it's all gone into in so much depth, and there is so much passion and atmosphere. The sound design, as always, is brilliant. This has been a great, great story. The level of atmosphere created by the sound design can't be underestimated, because you feel as though you're underground with these people. And yes, there is an explanation of how to use dynamite, which actually just sounds so great that you start going, you shouldn't really be telling these people these things. But that's fine. That's what Survivors is on some levels. It's a how-to guide. Because let's face it, in the event of an atomic war, or in the event of society falling in any form, we're all going to be having a load of skills that are of no use to anyone at all. Fade Out, you kind of know what's coming because you know the box set's coming. And then you've got just some nice character moments. Here's the synopsis for this, which is story 3. Robert Malcolm is closing in on the ringleaders, still struggling against the Protectorate. Peter Grant has reasons to make this fight personal. But the fugitives hiding in an abandoned cinema find that people are tired of war. When the soldiers come to town, for some, this will be their last stand. The abandoned cinema is a brilliant bit of location. Yes, there are flashback sequences and things like that to the story that's going on, but then you've got basically a siege thing going on as well, and you've got people trying to escape. It's small characters, it's people building, and of course there's the relationship with Peter. Oh, that's so dark. Now, I didn't get a chance to speak to Peter Davison's son Joel at Big Finish Day, but he was there and he was helping judge the fancy dress, whatever it's called these days. I am so old-fashioned. What's it called? The word where people dress up? I know you're shouting it back at me. It's fine. Cosplay, that's it. He was judging that, and I didn't get a chance to tell him that the last time I met him, he was standing behind his dad at a convention in 2006, and he was a very small child. His performance here is brilliant. Of course, telling him that would have made no impression on him at all, because it doesn't matter. All it makes is me feel very, very old. So, Peter Grant's character is very important, and his development is spot on, and he is so dark and so honest as to just make you cringe and be terrified by where everything is going. Yes, Robert is ex-military, but he's got a child army, and Pan is terrifying as a character. And yet she still loves him because that's her entire motivation. Yes, she's sneaky enough to make, well, I don't want to give any spoilers, but you will see these things coming. Moving on to the final end in story number 4, written by the brilliant Andrew Smith. 9.4, Conflict by Andrew Smith. The Protectorate tightens its grip on the fragile infrastructure of the country in recovery. All stirrings of rebellion must be crushed, but Jenny has a plan to unseat its leaders once and for all. And now Abby and Peter Grant are inexorably heading towards a final confrontation. I tell you what, if there is some form of a battle or anything that happens, I do want Andrew on my side because he's very good at, well, tactics. But that's, of course, reality. Here we've got a storyline where you've got an attack, and you've got two of the main central female characters with two differing worldviews, and you're crying out at the audio, at the speakers, going, no, don't do that. And that's just great writing to make you want to do these things. It's a wonderful and heartfelt end to this box set. It sorts things out, it leaves things hanging, and I'm not going to give you any spoilers. It's action-packed, and you know what? The guy who plays the prisoner is in this, and I didn't recognise his voice for a moment until the extras. That's just great acting. Brilliant performances all round. There's just a nice tone with Survivors that gives you hope. Hope possibly lacking in the real world. And when you're getting your hope from an entirely destroyed society, you know there's something wrong. So here's the trailer, decide for yourself, and I know this is not the end for Survivors, which in many respects is exactly what it's all about. So until next time, be seeing you.
From Big Finish Productions, Survivors, Series 9.
I was following an order.
I didn't raise you to be like this.
True. but everything changed when most of the world got wiped out, didn't it?
Okay, people, we've finished here. Mission accomplished.
We've got to do something. They're closing in.
Hello, Ruth.
Jenny!
What have I done?
I'm not a monster.
I met Meg Pritchard, the architect of this so-called protectorate.
Every movement needs a leader. And I've got news for you, Jenny. You're not going to live out the day.
There's something you should know about Abby.
What would you like me to do, sir?
Prepare a larger strike force and head back. Get ready to move before dawn tomorrow.
Sir.
I have something very, very important to say. I'm sorry to say that a new darkness is spreading over the land.
She's got guts.
Forces are gathering in the shape of armies coordinated by a woman called Meg Pritchard. These armies are crushing small communities like yours, communities that have forced themselves up from the bleak days after the death. She will take everything away from you. No, no!
Last chance.
I don't know!
Okay, then.
No, you bastard, no! The old ones are put to work, and if they can't work, they're executed. They're a drain on resources.
We're looking for some strangers. Agitators trying to sabotage the Protectorate's plans for an inclusive society, trying to stop this country getting back on its feet again.
Pass me that gas canister.
We have to hold on to our morals and our values. Otherwise, what's the point?
I am.
Weapons are ready. Abby, take these fatigues and get changed.
So I'll look the part, eh?
You're one of us now. Go on. We've sent a very clear warning. A rebel leader's body draped across the cinema screen should be a strong deterrent.
Stay where you are!
What are you doing?
Hands up! I said up! Better.
Find them and kill them. But bring Jenny Richards back.
If they saw it, they'll be coming for it.
What? What have you done?
I made a terrible mistake. I thought you'd escaped. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. If you're going to kill Peter, you kill me first. And what makes you think I wouldn't shoot a collaborator? We were friends for a long time. I told you and Greg that day you went to London you were my oldest friends in the world. I remember.
If anyone tries to stop us, you'll be the first to get a bullet.
Why should I do anything for you?
I'm your mother.
Somebody had to be.
Get the wagons inside! Get them to safety! Go on, move!
Hey, wait!
Oh, Peter, for goodness sake...
No more! No more. Understood?
No! If or when I see Abby Grant again, only one of us will walk away.
Big Finish. We love stories.
On Saturday the 31st of August 2019, Hooverville returns. The Derby Quad brings us the best little Doctor Who convention in the world. Guests announced so far include Ingrid Oliver, Osgood, Sophia Miles, Madame Pompadour, the girl in the fireplace, Nabil Shaban, who played Syl, Christopher Ryan, Lord Kiv in Mind Warp, and General Stahl in the Sontaran Stratagem. Edward Russell, former Doctor Who brand manager. Rob Ritchie, 3D animator on the Macra Terror. Keith Barnfather from Real Time Pictures. Chris Chapman, Doctor Who VAM producer. James Burgess, model maker on Mission to the Own remake. And there are sponsored guests including Michael E. Bride, director, and Simon Fisher Becker, who played Dorian Maltavar. There are still guests to be announced, and some of them are pretty impressive. So get yourself over to the Derby Quad website and book yourself a ticket for Saturday the 31st of August 2019. See you there. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.